This
Oh,
conference will now be recorded.
oh yeah. Yeah. Trust me, you don't want
Looks like my mic was off. All right, very good. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Mark Reeves with
to go ahead to
TSSAA.
leave.
Want to welcome everyone. Thank you for being here, taking some time in your afternoon to join us. I want to welcome you back from dead period for those who hopefully had a little bit of time off to slow down. We're excited about being with you today and hopefully providing you with some information to be helpful as you start your next school year. We're going to stay with the agenda that you were sent with the link to this meeting. We've shifted just a couple of things around order-wise, but that's not a big deal. And of course, this will be available for you on the Athletic Administrators Resources page when we're done. When we get started, the first thing on the agenda is the TIAAA membership and professional development opportunities. We've had a long partnership with TIAAA, which is the Tennessee Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association. We're pleased to have the executive director of the TIAAA, Mr. Mike Elson, with us today. And Mike's going to be too humble to tell you this, but Mike was recently selected for induction into the NIAAA, the National Athletic Directors Association Hall of Fame, and is the first person from Tennessee to ever receive this distinguished honor. So it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Mike Elson.
Mark, thank you very much. And from a TIAAA perspective, we would just like to thank the TSSAA for the long-term commitment to athletic administrators in the state of Tennessee. We highly, highly value our partnership and appreciate the unconditional support. So I wanted to share that as we begin. If you go to TIAAA.org, you can see a lot of general information about the TIAAA. You're going to be able to go on the TSSAA portal, sign up to be a member. And when you're a member of the TIAAA State Association, we're a dual state, and it also gives you the opportunity to be a national member. So when you sign up, you pay on the portal, you're a TIAAA and NIAAA member. You'll be able to see member benefits and access the NIAAA website, take leadership training courses, attend webinars, get conference discounts at both the state and national conference. So with that, that's how we'll begin here about the TIAAA. Here is your board of directors. As you can see, there's representation from Bristol and East Tennessee to Memphis in the west, and all points in between. We have 9 athletic districts. We also have several at-large individuals serving on our board, as well as different leadership positions, from our secretary treasurer to a mentor chair, DEIB, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, social media. We're trying to do a great job to be as widespread as possible to give you as much breadth or depth of information as possible that's available as an athletic administrator, again, both in Tennessee and nationally. So that's our board of directors. Feel free to reach out to anyone in your area, and they'll be able to answer any questions about professional development, especially for you as a TIAAA member.
We're having some sound problems, so let's. Yeah.
Okay, if all of you can hit your mute button on your computer, it's creating a problem for everybody to be able to hear what we're saying here as we show you the slides. So if everybody go ahead and do that, we can test the system to make sure that everybody can hear.
I think I turned everyone off. Okay. See if that's. make sure you're still on.
All right. Yes, hopefully that's good. Please continue to type in the chat. Let us know whether you can hear or not. And I will speak again or repeat. Your TIAAA membership, which you can join on the TSSAA portal when you sign up for membership at the beginning, here in July or early August, you're able to sign up to be a member of TIAAA. We are a dual state, which means you're a member of both the TIAAA and the NIAAA. And at the end, our last slide for TIAAA, we'll have our TIAAA website address where you can go on and do some research about all the opportunities that are available. The first thing I want to share with you is about certification. And we want to encourage you. There are different states that are able to pay a small stipend if you become an RAA, a CAA, or a CMAA, as you can see there on the left-hand column. And what we want to do is, we want to continue to promote certification from a perspective of if you take LTC classes, you're able to achieve certification along with experience and eventually an exam. So there are different processes that are in place, different roadmap, if you will, and we're going to share that. You can see here in the middle, there are 60 this year in Austin, Texas in December 13th through 17. There's going to be offered 60 leadership training courses. These are the best courses for professional development, and it's a lot of great collaboration and shared best practices with other athletic administrators literally from around the world. Trying to make sure here we're good.
Yeah, somehow we've lost the screen, so hang on 1 second. I think someone else is sharing somehow. Yeah, hang on 1 second. There it is. Let's see.
Okay, hopefully you can hear us now, and hopefully you can see the screen. And again, you'll get this PowerPoint. So if you have any questions, my contact information is going to be at the end as it pertains to being an athletic administrator. But I was speaking about 60 LTC courses. I'll show you on the next slide the 14 legal duties. And then we're having a few schools go through what's called the QPA Quality Program Assessment. It's a program where once you have your CAA, you're eligible to go and pursue basically athletic department accreditation through the NIAAA. It's a phenomenal opportunity. And so I'm going to mention our state conference a little bit later. There are webinars that begin next Monday, July 15, which is LTC 799. It's already sold out. And then again, NIAAA courses. So I wanted to share that information with you. And then to show you a slide, and if you have a chance, you might want to screenshot this slide and put it in your slide deck for your preseason or pre-year all-staff coaches meeting. It's very important that you share this information with your coaches and you're able to go on record saying, I did share this in case anything were to happen. We don't want to think about that, but an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, and we're trying to help you see around corners with this information. So again, proper supervision, duty to plan, think about matching athletes, the heat illness, acclimatization as you come back as students come back from the heat and maybe not, they're not doing a lot right now, but they're in the midst of the heat. And so just wanted to share this with you and hope that it's something, again, that we strongly encourage you share with your coaching staff. All right, so our state conference, for the first time in the history of the TIAAA, dating back to 1991, we went to Knoxville in 2024. We had a wonderful experience. The Crown Plaza Hotel in downtown Knoxville, which is actually the host hotel for the University of Tennessee when visiting teams come into town. They were very welcoming, set up for a great venue. It's across the street from Market Square there in Knoxville, if you're familiar. Brian Brown of Knox County and all the Knox County athletic directors, Brian's staff. They did a phenomenal job of helping us all feel welcomed, the Knoxville Sports Commission, and also the University of Tennessee. And so we're looking forward to going back. We had, approximately 110, 120 attend last year's conference, which was more than the year before. And we sure would love to bump that number to 200. And again, it's all about network collaboration, sharing best practices. So we hope you'll put that down on your calendar, mark your calendar. We have people driving all the way from, every part of the state. Even thinking of Mike Moore from Lake County, several from Memphis made the drive, and it was a great experience. So mark down April 11 through 14, 2025 in Knoxville. And then I mentioned earlier about certification, and here's the roadmap to certification. So you want to take LTC 501, 2, 3, 4, and 6 to be eligible for the CAA exam. You will read the NIAAA Code of Ethics. And if you go to the NIAAA website, you can access or download the leadership training course booklet. And on pages 20 and 21, it will give you detail going from the RAA, CAA to the CMAA. So again, we wanted to share that with you and strongly encourage you to do that. Joe Blair here in the state office recently got his CAA, took the exam at the April conference, and it's just another example of the state office and the TSSAA and their support of the TIAAA. So our final slide here for TIAAA is just some, access for our website. Our partners are really important to us. They're helping to provide funding to help us put on a great conference, to provide scholarships for athletic administrators who maybe their school system does not provide any funding. And you can see all my information there at the bottom. And if you're interested in, maybe your system does not support you attending, but you want to come to the conference, please send me an email, send me a text. I want to help you, want to give back. I was an athletic director myself for over 30 years, and just an opportunity here through the TIAAA and NIAAA to really strengthen our network and help you be the very best you can be as an athletic administrator for your school community. So with that, again, I want to thank Mark and the TSSAA for the opportunity to be able to share. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to the executive director of TACA, Tennessee Athletic Coaches Association, Mr. Bill Marbut.
Thank you, Mike. Mr. Reeves, thank you for inviting us up here today. Our first thing I want to go over is our membership. Our dues are $52 per coach, and you have to be a coach of a particular school. Not just anyone can join. If you have 15 or more on a staff or from a school, we give a group discount to $45. So that's a considerable savings if you would want to get your entire coaching staff enrolled. One big thing that I think is so important for us is to have our $2 million liability insurance coverage. And that's not only for your coaching responsibilities, but it also covers you in the classroom. So then we have the admission to the TSSAA state championship events. And we would ask, and this is certainly not anything that's mandated, but if your school could honor the TACA cards at your gates, I know the coaches would appreciate it. That's one thing, but it's not something that is required. That's up to the individual school. But we have hospitality rooms at the football championships, basketball, girls and boys championships, and wrestling. And one thing that we're proud of this year, we have completed, Russ Plummer's done a great job of putting this together. But each sanctioned sport of the TWSAA has a representative on their TACA board of directors. So we're very proud of that. And again, Russ has done a great job with that. Our website has our board, not our board member, but has our directors and staff listed. So if there's any questions that you have, you can go to the TACA.net, and that information will be on there. I think that's pretty much covering. I want to make sure camp insurance. If I say anything, we need to make sure that you're aware that for if you hold any kind of any camp, summer camp, fall, winter camp, that we have the insurance for your participants and the coaches, and that's available. You can call the office. Shannon Lovell will give you the information, and it's through our TWSAA insurance carrier, Lomas and Lipan. I think that's pretty much what we needed to cover, Mark. So we appreciate the opportunity, and thank you, Mike, for what you do. But we want to continue doing what we have. Mr. Blair, I think you're up next.
All right, thank you, Bill and Russ. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to take a few minutes here and go through a couple of things. Hopefully will be beneficial for athletic directors, and some of this may be stuff that you all already know or have played around with and discovered, but a couple of things on our website, some resources that are helpful to athletic directors, and then also getting into compliance with coaches' education requirements and some sports rules meetings, and then talk a little bit about Safe Stars and the Smart Heart Act and the TWSAA portal itself. So this is the screenshot of our main webpage. We actually have two web pages. If you aren't familiar with that, we have a championship website where we have all of our state championship information, postseason information on. That's the TWSAA sport.com website. Anything championship related will go on there. There's a wealth of history on there from past championship results. It's a good place to go and get lost into if you want to start going down some rabbit holes of things in the past. It's a great place to go to and check things out. Great resource. Our day-to-day operations and resource page is twsaa.org. And for you all, probably the number one place that you want to get used to hanging out is the athletic administrators page. I'm going to click this link and hopefully nothing will go away for you. We'll see what happens. And that didn't work. Let me go back over here. So a few things on our main web page to point out before we get to the athletic administrators page. Down here we have a quick links section, and in the quick links section there's the bulletin board, where is basically a place that you all can post information that you have that you want others to know about through the portal. If you have games that you're looking for, if you have positions, coaching positions that you want to post, advertise, that you have openings for, you're looking for scrimmages, or you have tournaments or equipment or things like that. These are all things that you can post to the bulletin board through your portal account, and it will go up there as long as you need it to go up there. So that's available in the quick links. Your member directory. Also, if you want to look up someone from another school, you have a quick link to your membership directory. Our calendar, our live web calendar is posted here as well. And there's also a link to the portal itself in this quick links. So if you need to log into the portal, and doing your eligibility, entering your schedules. There's your quick link to get logged into the portal. For athletic administrators, the athletic administrators tab right here is probably going to be your one-stop shop for a lot that you need. There's a lot of wealthy information on here for athletic directors on this page. And there's a lot. Anytime we find something that is useful to you all, we're going to put it up here and have it as a resource for you. So there's quite a few things on here that I wanted to point out. The first being, as Mike mentioned earlier, we're coming out of the dead period. It's really hot, and we're getting ready to start up with our fall sports. And we need to be focusing on our health and safety guidelines and making sure everyone is following those guidelines, and we're creating as healthy of an athletic environments as possible for our athletes. So going through our health and safety policies, we have links in here to the Safe Stars initiative. Remember, the Safe Stars Act was passed by the state legislature 2 years ago, and it goes through the Tennessee Department of Health developed the Safe Stars initiative before the act took place to help schools be in compliance and create healthy environments. As you all know, the bronze level is the minimum level that all schools should be at. And if you have any questions about Safe Stars and what the requirements are, I encourage you to visit the Safe Stars Initiative page. It has tons of resources on there. It can walk you through step by step on what to do. Emergency action plan development. Everyone should have. Part of the Safe Stars Act is that you have emergency action plans for all of your athletic facilities. Developing an emergency action plan is a vital part of that. We have some resources here to help you with that. And if you ever have questions about emergency action plans and what they should look like, what they should include, feel free to contact me. I like to collect good emergency action plans from across the state. So if you have some that you're proud of, you want to share them with me, I like to share those with other schools. Say, hey, here's a good example to look at. Just to show what kind of information is on there. We also created last year with our Sports Medicine Advisory Committee emergency action plan template for visiting teams that you can download, and it's a Word document, so you can have it be specific for your athletic facilities and share that with any visiting teams coming onto your campus. Here's what we have available. Here's where our local medical facilities are and whatnot. So they are more prepared coming onto your campus. Everyone has a good idea of what the plan is in place. Heat illness policy. Make sure that we're reviewing our heat illness policy or heat policy with the wet bulb glow thermometer readings, our heat index. This is very vital right now. We've sent out some messaging to everyone earlier in the week to make sure you're paying attention to that. Our concussion policy, sudden cardiac arrest, the Smart Heart Act. We'll talk a little bit more about that. You should have received an email through the portal from us earlier today with a Smart Heart Act checklist. This is new state legislature that's coming on board this year. I'll speak a little bit more about that later. Lightning guidelines. As we're getting into the fall season, we're going to have pop-up thunderstorms all the time. Make sure we have our lightning plans in place. And then information about our Sports Medicine Advisory Committee. Everything health-wise and health and safety-wise, we run through and vet with our Sports Medicine Advisory Committee. They meet annually. They are a combination of trainers and physicians from across the state. And their main focus is to help create safe environments for athletes and for coaches, so we can do what we want to do as much as possible when we want to do it in as safe as manner as possible. So I appreciate the work that they do. So a lot of helpful information in the health and safety policies, postseason information. Anytime we get to state championship events and participation certificates and whatnot, you'll find that there. Membership essentials. Big thing especially for new athletic directors under membership essentials is this compliance checklist. This is a PowerPoint presentation that we update annually, and basically it gives you a month by month guide of what you should be looking at as an athletic director for that particular month. This is kind of what I'm checking on in the month of June. Here's what I need to be looking at for the month of July. So we get into August, here's some things to be looking at. So if I'm a new athletic director, for sure, you can print this off if you want. You can download it. You can pull it up anytime. It's always going to be available for you here on our website. And it's a good place to go to just to give yourself a check of, all right, I'm checking my boxes. I need to check, make sure I'm getting everything covered I need to cover month by month, because the year is a long year and things get crazy and it's easy for things to slip through the cracks sometimes. We currently have our up-to-date TSSAA Constitution and bylaws posted here for 2024-25. The TMSAA bylaws and Constitution will be posted here shortly. We're still cleaning up a few things on those to get updated for this year, but those will be posted here as well. Everything involving what we're doing today, this webinar recording will all be placed in this new administrator orientation session link and saved for you as well. Under the education tab, you have your coaching requirements, non-faculty and classified employee coaching requirements. I'll speak a little bit more of that here in a second when we start talking about NFHS Learn. Sports rules book and how to access your sports rules book. Rules meeting information. I'll speak more about that in a moment as well. So just some helpful education. Name, image, and likeness. Mr. Reeves is going to speak about, this is one of the hot topics that he's going to talk about later on, and resources that we have in place to help you all and your athletes navigate the world of NIL as far as high school sports are concerned. Under our general information, we have information about Officials Association. Again, there's some more quick links to bulletin board, TSSAA Hall of Fame, classification. If you have questions about classification, that's something, we're in the last year of our current classification cycle. So classification is going to be something that we as a staff and the Board of Control are going to be spending a lot of time on this year, getting ready for the next classification cycle as well. So any information we have regarding that will go into the classification section. Sports administration. As you all know, as athletic directors, there are 3 sports that we require pre-game game administrator meetings in for varsity competitions, and that's football, boys and girls soccer, and boys and girls basketball. We have guidelines for game administrators posted here under the sports administration page. It's just some helpful information. Here's what should be covered in that game administrator meeting. And that's a meeting that you, as the athletic administrator, if you're the game administrator, that's your meeting. It's not the officials meeting to run, it's your meeting. And that just gives you some guidelines of what to look for in that meeting. Something that we added last year that we got a lot of good positive feedback on, and we can continue on this year, the football pregame and EAP meeting. This is something that should occur immediately following your game administrator meeting. Is the football pregame EAP meeting. And basically that is to get medical representation from both sides, both teams, all on one site, all of the pieces in play as far as medical personnel that are available at a Friday night football game, and making sure everyone has a good, quick idea of what's available, where's the AED, what's the plan going to be if something were to happen during the game, how are we going to get the ambulance onto the field, who's responsible for that. Kind of just a real quick checklist of everybody, make sure everybody knows what the plan is if something were to happen. And the guidelines for this pregame EAP meeting is posted here under the sports administration section. You also have a quick link to your sports calendars. 2024-25 sports calendars for all your sports are here. If you ever have questions, how many games does soccer get in the regular season? What's the timeline of when first official date of practices are for certain events or certain sports? That's all there as well. Probably the next big time section to really focus on here is your forms section. If you're going to be hosting an event that needs to be sanctioned event through us, the guide to sanctioning or hosting an event, there's steps that are to go through that. If you are hosting an event, that must be sanctioned through our office. So you need to make sure you go through that if you're hosting a tournament or anything like that. That especially where other schools or schools from outside border states or whatever might be coming into, that could involve some NFHS sanctioning as well. Hardship application form. If you have a student that's been ruled ineligible, you want to try to get them eligible by hardship, you can find the hardship application form here. Sportsmanship forms. If you have an incident where an athlete or a coach has been ejected, they must have that follow-up administrators meeting. The sportsmanship form for that meeting can be found here. If you're an independent school, financial aid forms are here as well. If you want to establish a cooperative program with another school, the cooperative program form is here. And we also have a bona fide change of residence form, which is basically a resource to help you and any transfer students coming in to verify whether or not you have a bona fide change of residence taking place in that particular athlete for eligibility. So a lot of helpful, useful information on under the athletic administrators page. Probably the only thing I would point out on our website that would be beneficial to you all, the sports section. If you have specific questions about regulations or guidelines in individual sports throughout the year, we have a page set up for each sport, and on that page will be information specifically geared towards that sport. The practice regulations for football are on the football page and whatnot. The game regular season regulations are there as well. And any postseason information we will post to there as well. So that's another helpful section of our website to consider. All right, getting back to our presentation here. The next thing I want to talk about is coaches' education requirements. One of my areas that I'm responsible for covering is coaches' education and coaches' requirements. So if you ever have any questions about a particular coach that you've hired, you want to make sure that they've done their due diligence, that they have met the requirements to begin coaching, feel free to contact me at any time. I'll help you out with that. We have two sets of requirements for coaches. We have annual requirements that are for all coaches. And these annual requirements are basically coming from the Safe Stars Act, which requires certain types of annual training for health and safety purposes for all coaches, not just head coaches or for one-time assistants or anything like that. These are for all coaches every year. The Safe Stars Act requires that there be an annual training in concussion, sudden cardiac arrest, heat illness prevention, and CPR and AED training. NFHS courses in concussion in sports, sudden cardiac arrest, and heat illness prevention, those satisfy the requirements as stated in the Safe Stars Act for those annual trainings. NFHS does have a CPR and AED online training course now. Unlike the first three here, the CPR and AED training course is not a free option currently. It does have a $10 fee to it. I get a lot of questions about what's the CPR and AED training look like. And that course is a good course. It's about a 45-minute course. It does have a time in the course where it allows for participants to do some type of hands-on practice. And any type of CPR and AED training that you do with your coaches should have some type of hands-on piece to it, whether you have CPR practice dummies available at your school in your PE department, or there's certain you can get some online tricks and hacks on how to come up with some practice dummies, like 2-liter bottles. That's one, or using some type of a beach ball or some type of gym ball or something like that to use as compressions. Something that you can do some type of hands-on practice as well with that. So that's a component of what the CPR and AED training should look like. The other type of coaching requirement we have specifically relates to non-faculty coaches and classified employees. So your TAs, substitute teachers that are not full-time educators. There are one-time requirements that all non-faculty coaches and classified employees must complete prior to working with athletes, prior to them beginning to work with the program. So if you have a non-faculty coach you want to hire or you have hired for this coming year, before they begin working with student athletes, this is per the TSSAA bylaws, they must have completed the NFHS fundamentals of coaching and NFHS first aid, health, and safety courses. There is a cost to these courses. Each course this year, beginning this year, each course is $100. So this is a $200 total for those courses, but it is only a one-time requirement for non-faculty coaches and classified employees. All of these courses can be found on the NFHSlearn.com website. We'll go over there really quickly, show you a few things in this website. On the NFHS Learn website, there's a few things that they have done to, I think, help the process for coaches doing their annual coaching training. At the very top, you see courses for, and you see coaches, students, parents, administrators. If you're working with your coaches, you want to get their coaching requirements taken care of, then you want to go to the free courses. You can scroll down and select free courses. And this is one new update for this year that I think is really beneficial and helpful. In the past, you had to select a course, add it to your cart, check out, just like you were buying it, even though there was no cost to it. They've changed that now, so that now if a course is a free course, like sudden cardiac arrest, all you have to do now is click Start Learning, and there is no checkout process. That course, once you've logged into the website, you've logged in under your account, that course has now been added to your account. You can now begin that course right away. There is no checkout process to it. So all the courses that NFHS provides on NFHS Learn are here for you to use. If you are an athletic director and you want to know, does this non-faculty coach, have they met their coach's requirement? Do they have what they need in place? When you are signed in under your account, you'll see this user lookup tag. That user lookup tag is a very handy tool. You can click on that, go in, and it'll ask you what state you're in. It'll ask you to enter the coach's name. You enter in the coach's name. And if that coach has taken any NFHS Learn courses anytime in the past, it will have their entire list of courses that have been completed pulled up for you. So you can go through and look to see if they've completed their fundamentals and their first aid, health, and safety as well. So that's very handy, a resource as well for athletic directors. I use that one all the time because I always have people asking me, hey, I got this coach I want to hire. I can't tell if we go back to, can I look to see if they have their courses that they need or whatnot. So that is with the NFHS Learn platform. And again, if you need to take get a shot of that, like I said, this slide presentation will all be available for you online. Once we get finished with today's webinar, we'll have everything posted for you online as well. And again, if you ever have any questions about coaches courses, please feel free to contact me on that. Rules meetings for this year.
Someone's getting a screenshot of the first slide you went to. Is that? I'll maybe clarify what Bill Griffin was wanting to screenshot.
Okay.
Keep going.
Emily, if we could just get the first slide with the 14 steps. My AD's asked for that again to make sure that the very first one he said to screenshot.
Okay. All right. We will get copies of everything on the slide presentation to you if there's something that you missed.
Right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Okay, rules meetings. Like I said, we did have a quick link on your athletic administrator's webpage of the schedule for rules meetings for this year. Some sports are in person. Other sports will just be strictly online rules meetings for this year. Our in-person rules meetings for this year are in the sports of football, boys and girls basketball, baseball, softball, and boys and girls lacrosse. Right now, football, basketball, baseball, and softball, those dates for those rules meetings are currently posted on our schedule. We have a link here in the presentation. And again, this takes you to, you can get access to this through our website, through the rules meetings webpage. You go here and it'll have listed all of the rules meetings, all of the meetings, really administrator meetings, and all the in-person rules meetings coming forward. If it's an online meeting, it won't give you any dates of an in-person meeting because there isn't any, but it will show you how to access the online meeting if you're a coach. And basically you'll access that meeting through the portal. Okay. The lacrosse rules meetings are currently not, those dates are not posted yet. We're still waiting to finalize a few of those locations, but once we get those finalized, we will have those posted. There will be 4 boys and girls lacrosse rules meetings across the state this year. Those will be in January of this coming school year. We'll have one in the Knoxville area, one in the Chattanooga area. We'll have a Middle Tennessee rules meeting, and then we'll have a West Tennessee rules meeting. And we'll get those posted once we get all of our locations and dates finalized. They will be on the schedule. All the online meetings are listed here. So the sports over here will be strictly online. There will not be an in-person meeting option in volleyball, soccer, golf, cheer, bowling, wrestling, tennis, and track. Those will strictly be online meetings this year. Cross country does not have rules meetings. I guess Richard McWhorter doesn't feel like cross country needs rules. So there's no rules meetings in cross country for this year. Everything else is going to be online. One question we get is, what if I cannot attend an in-person meeting? You need to attend an in-person meeting. If we are hosting in-person meetings, we asked, and because this is the one time during the year where we have officials and coaches in the one room talking about rules. So it's a very good conversation, good place to be. So we ask that you attend the online or attend the in-person meetings. That being said, if you cannot, something happens, you just cannot, there will be online options once these meetings are complete. Once the in-person meetings are done, you would have an online option. You must complete your rule meeting requirement prior to your first date of competition. That is in our bylaws. You must have your rules meeting requirement met prior to first official date of competition, not your first contest, but first official date of competition, in order to avoid any type of fine. Okay, Safe Stars Act and the Smart Heart Act. So these are, again, 2 pieces of health and safety legislation that have been passed by the state of Tennessee within the past year or 2. We're probably most familiar with the Safe Stars Initiative, Safe Stars Act. Like I said, we have a link to their Safe Stars Initiative website posted in the Health and Safety Policy section. Highly recommend that you make that one of your bookmark sites and refer to it often. There's a lot of wealthy information in there for you. Tennessee Safe Stars Act requires all schools to have met the bronze level requirements for Safe Stars, the Safe Stars Initiative. That's you've completed all of your training. You have your emergency action plans in place. All the other boxes need to be checked to make sure that you are a Safe Stars school. That's all listed on the Tennessee Safe Stars website. New for this year, this is new legislation that was signed this past spring by Governor Lee, went into effect officially July 1 of this year, is the Smart Heart Act. The Smart Heart Act very much, I would say, goes kind of hand in hand with the Safe Stars Act. If you've done your due diligence as an athletic department to create your emergency action plans properly, then you will have met a lot of what the Smart Heart Act already requires. What we have done, you've received an email from us earlier today with a copy of this Smart Heart Act checklist. This is a resource that we've created to help you all go through and evaluate what you have currently in your athletic department for your emergency action plans and your health resources to make sure that you are in compliance with the new state law. There are really 3 pieces that relate specifically to school athletics in the Smart Heart Act that speaks specifically to sudden cardiac arrest situations. The first piece is the AED. You have an AED, is it properly maintained? Is it checked often? Those should be checked monthly to make sure that they're still operating properly, the battery is functioning properly and everything. Does it properly identified with signage? Does everybody know where it is? If it's an outdoor facility or if it's an indoor facility, do you know where the AED is properly? If it's in a box mounted on the wall, you know where that is. And is it accessible and unlocked within 3 minutes of any athletic activity? This is probably the big piece right here that schools will need to focus on this year is not only do you have an AED, but where is it? Can you get to it quickly? How quickly, and that you've rehearsed that emergency action plan. You practice it to make sure you know how long it takes to get an AED from wherever it is to the football field or to the baseball field or wherever. If you have a situation where an athlete or a coach falls out to a sudden cardiac arrest incident. The second piece is the athletic emergency action plan, which very much falls in line with what we have already had in the Safe Stars Act, just the general emergency action plan. So you should always review your emergency action plans annually, go through them, make sure everybody knows where they are for their sports, for their facilities, make sure each coach knows what those plans are for their facilities that they're working with and how to get access to those, and review those and make sure everything is up to date and current. And then the third piece of the Smart Heart Act is that you have developed a cardiac emergency response plan. And these checklists go through what the pieces of that plan should look like. Identify the number and location of AEDs within the school building, so that's documented. And on the school grounds, where are all your AEDs located? Establish a cardiac emergency response team. Do you have specific people on your coaching staff in your school that you want to have on this cardiac emergency response team? I would have multiple individuals that are certified in CPR, know how to respond to an emergency cardiac emergency situation, and have been properly trained in that. You've incorporated your student athletes in this as well. You've posted on the school grounds what these plans are. Everyone knows about it. You reviewed it annually. So this is mainly just a resource for you all to use as a checklist to help you with the new Smart Heart Act to make sure that you are in compliance with the new state law. And again, this is new. Like anything else that's new, there's always going to be questions. So feel free to reach out to us. We will work with the Department of Health often, have a good relationship with Terry Love and the Department of Health, and he helps us out a lot. We can definitely help guide you through any of that as well. Last thing I'm going to hit on is just some general help information with the portal. As an athletic director, the portal is going to become a very familiar site for you. That's where you're going to enter all of your eligibility for athletes, schedules, anything that you want to post on the bulletin board, any other information that anything that's billed to you from us. Membership dues can be paid through the portal. Invoicing can be done through the portal. So anything that you have, any questions that you have with the portal, we have a general portal help link. There's a lot of Bradley Lambert, who's developed, he and Shawnee Spicer worked together to develop the portal. They've created a lot of helpful areas, tutorial areas to help with anything in the portal as well. There's a video that Bradley has created on your athletic administrator's page. That's a portal tutorial video that will go through everything that the portal has to offer and how to utilize that. Shawnee Spicer is probably your first point of contact. If you have a question about the portal in our office, reach out to Shawnee. She'd be happy to help you out with anything portal related. All right, now I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. Reeves, and he's going to spend time talking about the governance of TSSAA and the rest of our agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Blair. Wanted to spend a minute or two just going over the governance or structure of TSSAA. I know this may be old news for a number of you, but there's a number of individuals out there that don't understand the way that the TSSAA is set up. You basically have two governing bodies, the Board of Control and the Legislative Council. Those two bodies are made up of 12 individuals. The Board of Control oversees the selection of the executive director. Kind of when you think about a school board selecting a superintendent or head of school, they also oversee sports regulations. So all of the contest formats, regular season, postseason, tournament, bracketing, how many come advance in the postseason, et cetera. The finances of the association, any disciplinary action appeals, if there's been disciplinary action enacted on a school or a game official, for example, they handle all of those appeals. Also hardship appeals, which you don't see listed there, but hardship appeals, if the school is appealing the eligibility of a student, and that hardship is denied by the executive director, then the Board of Control can hear that at that appeal for the hardship. And then anything that arises under the jurisdiction of the Legislative Council, if there's a bylaw issue that has to be taken up in the Legislative Council, if the Board of Control meets before the Legislative Council, they can take that issue up. And then classification, as Mr. Blair mentioned before, would be one thing that the Board of Control will be spending some time on for sure this fall. The Legislative Council amends the Constitution and bylaws as suggested by the member schools. So the member schools have the opportunity to submit a proposal for the Legislative Council to consider. If you have a bylaw that you would like to see looked at, eligibility situation, et cetera. One thing to consider about that is the Legislative Council, they meet twice a year, whereas the Board of Control meets 5 times a year. The council meets in December and in April. And so whenever proposals are submitted, in many cases, schools will do that because they have an issue that has arisen that particular year, but it's generally not going to be correctable that same year because the proposals that the council entertains are generally going to be approved for the next school year. There's some information about the board and council. You can find what athletic district your school belongs in on the About TSSAA page. If you on the top right of the website, you'll see that About TSSAA. When you click on that, you'll see what you are seeing right here, where you can actually click on athletic districts and see what athletic district your school belongs to, who makes up the Legislative Council, who makes up the Board of Control. So that might be useful information if you haven't become familiar with who your representatives are on the Board of Control and the council. And so just a quick overview we have 3 athletic districts in East Tennessee, 3 in Middle and 3 in West. So the representatives on East Tennessee, you'll see here are the Board of Control and of the Legislative Council. Independent schools have a representative on the Board of Control and on the Legislative Council. You'll see here in East Tennessee, Jay Watt served as the Division II or independent school representative for East Tennessee, and he has stepped away from his position at Girls Preparatory School, and so that position is vacant, and that will be appointed by the East Division members of the Board of Control at an upcoming meeting yet to be determined, but prior to the August Board of Control meeting. Middle Tennessee Board of Control members, I'll call attention to Ms. Michelle Sanchez at Hunters Lane High School. Michelle will be stepping away from that position as she has accepted a teaching position in administrative position in the state of Texas. So Michelle will be rolling off Middle Tennessee Board of Control, or as a Middle Tennessee representative on the Board of Control, and those Middle Tennessee Grand Division members will be selecting her replacement for that August meeting. Now, in both cases where we have a vacancy, once someone has been appointed, that position is still up for election at the regional meetings, which are held in November. So when we think about the governance and structure of the TSSAA with the Legislative Council. Any proposals that come to the membership for consideration are discussed at the at the regional meetings for the Legislative Council to consider. And the member schools have an opportunity to actually vote on those proposals. That vote is not a binding vote, but it's shared with the Legislative Council and certainly carries a lot of weight with their decision as to whether or not to approve or deny a proposal. I want to spend just a few minutes going over our constitution and bylaw changes. Quite frankly, this is my, I believe, 17th year with the association. I believe we have more bylaw changes than we've ever had, which is a good thing from a standpoint that our membership is learning what the process is, submitting proposals. There's a lot of things that the Legislative Council had to consider last year. The first change is to allow Category 4 schools to apply for TSSAA or TMSAA membership. The Category 4 schools are church-related independent schools. Most of these schools are joining the association to form cooperative agreements with another member schools. We're actually going to have more of these probably at the middle school level than we have at the high school level. Our second bylaw change is in regards to sanctioned sports. This section has been added to the bylaws to establish criteria for an emerging sport. Legislative Council can sanction the emergency sport, or excuse me, not emergency sport, the emerging sport once we have a set percentage of member schools who have that particular sport, and then that sport is treated the same as any other sanctioned sport, other than the fact that state championship would not be offered. This gives some criteria for the council to consider when a school submits a proposal for a new activity or a new sport, whereas in the past we didn't really have a set number or percentage. This gives us a little bit more direction there. Now, girls flag football was our first sport to be sanctioned as an emerging sport, and Simile Crowell is going to be overseeing girls flag football, and she is working and sending correspondence. You've probably seen some of that to try to identify how many schools will actually have girls flag football, and then we will help classify schools into districts, regions, et cetera, and help shape a format for a postseason invitational, a culminating event that will not be a recognized state championship, but will be a great event at the conclusion of this year. The next bylaw change, Mr. Blair had mentioned the increase in, well, let me go back. The next change has to do with non-faculty coach registration fees. A little bit of background. Legislative Council was charged to take a look at all areas of our bylaws where fees would be incurred by member schools, in a discussion that we were having about the need to raise revenue for an office building. We'll talk more about that at our administrators meetings in September. But our office building is over 50 years old, and there's an established need for that. So we're looking at ways in which we would raise income for that. And so Legislative Council, before we did anything else, want to look at things that had not been looked at in quite some time, a number of years. So the non-faculty coach registration fees had been $50 and $25 since their inception back in the mid-1990s. So they voted to increase the registration fees at the high school level from $50 to $75 for non-faculty coach, and at the middle school level from $25 to $50. The next item here has to do with the repeating rule. This change establishes basically that if a student who participates in middle school athletics for more than 2 years after entering the 7th grade shall be ineligible for participation in all sports at all levels in the 9th grade. Now, if you are a a TMSAA, a member school for TMSAA, there is no opportunity to participate a year that you would be repeating a grade. But if you have students that are coming to your school that come from non-member middle schools, this would be the provision. So we hear the term reclassification quite often, more so than we used to. So students who, quote, reclassify, that doesn't necessarily knock them out for participation in the 9th grade year, but it would if they have participated in more than 2 years of athletics after entering the 7th grade. Next item to discuss just briefly, this doesn't happen very often, but there is a term that you will see in our bylaws that says under discipline. And in essence, what this would be, if you have a student that transfers or changes schools, if those students are under discipline from their former school, if they've been sent to an alternative setting or they've been kicked out of school, then they are not going to be eligible at their new school. Previously, prior to this rule change, this only applied for students who had athletic records, but this would now apply to any student who is changing schools, not just one who would be, not just one who would have an athletic record. This next change applies at the high school level to those schools who are Division II schools. Clarity has been added as an approved service for determining the basis of need-based financial aid. So in Division II schools, you have to go through a list of approved providers for that service. Clarity has just been added as an additional option there. Next section is non-traditional student eligibility. This is one that the council has spent quite some time and the membership has spent quite some time in discussing what this should look like. But the homeschool and the virtual school rules have been replaced by this non-traditional student eligibility section. A definition for non-traditional students, which would be in essence a homeschool student or virtual school student, has been added to the handbook. But the big change is that these have been brought into alignment. So in terms of where students must live, if they're a homeschool student and virtual student to participate for a particular school, that's now the same. In essence, whether I'm a homeschool student or a virtual school student, I must live in the territory of the school that they wish to play for. So with that being said, the definition of territory, if you're not familiar with that, some of you may not, for a public school, that definition is the area that the buses will serve for that particular school. So if the school bus will pick you up and take you to school A and you're if you're a homeschool student and you live in a house where if you were to ride the bus to the school, if you were a student at that school and the bus would pick you up and take you to school A, then you can only play for school A. If the bus does not take you to school B, then you can't play for school B. For an independent school, homeschool student, virtual school student, then that territory is defined as 20-mile radius around that particular independent school. If it's a system-wide school, magnet school, or charter school, that territory is the actual borders, geographic borders of that county. But homeschool students who are playing for a school outside of the territory that they live, who are now forced to play for the school that they would then in essence be living in, they would be able to do so and be eligible. Those students are eligible through a method that we think of for transfer students that are rezoned. So I'm a homeschool student and I was playing for a school that is outside the territory where I live. Now I'm going to play for the school in whose territory I live, because that's what the rule now says I have to do. Then that student's going to be like an eligible transfer student that is eligible by virtue of being rezoned. There's also a grandfather clause in essence that the council put in. Homeschool students who have already established an athletic record for a school that is outside the territory for where they live would be allowed to finish their high school or their middle school athletic careers at that particular school. So there's a grandfather clause for those who have already started playing for that particular school. Anyone who has not established that athletic record would fall under these guidelines. In terms of what that procedure is going to look like when you're filing eligibility in the TSSAA portal, for homeschool students and virtual school students, for those who maybe have filed eligibility before, if you've had homeschool or virtual school, you may recall there was an indemnity agreement that had to be submitted to us. That is not the case anymore. We have revamped that portion of the portal for non-traditional student eligibility, where all you'll have to do is just simply answer the questions that are produced when the school indicates that you've got a non-traditional student. There's nothing else that you have to send to us, indemnity agreements, academic records, anything like that. That's all found within that question answer. So it should streamline this just a bit for those who have done this before. Also, in reference to the homeschool, the non-traditional students, a provision has been added where students can transfer from a traditional school setting to a non-traditional setting or vice versa. And more often than not, that's going to be a homeschool setting. So I'm going to my brick and mortar school and I transfer to a homeschool setting, then I am now going to be eligible by rule if I'm planning to continue to play for the same school, and vice versa. In other words, I'm at a home school. I also transfer to a brick and mortar school. I'm going to be eligible even if I've established an athletic record, as long as I'm planning to participate for the same school that I was already participating for. The next bylaw change has.
Before you go
Yep,
there, do you
sure.
want to address, there's a question in the chat about if they have open zone and a non-traditional student and
Yeah.
how that applies.
So absolutely. So, and that's a great question. So the question about open zone for non-traditional students, this bylaw is still going to apply. And I know for most school systems, that's not a change. Most school systems were more restrictive from a standpoint that they were only allowing their students to play for the school in whose territory they live. But that's not always the case. I'll just use Rutherford County for an example here, Middle Tennessee and the Murfreesboro area, that they had open, I don't know if they have open zone, but those homeschool students could participate at any school that was within Rutherford County. But this rule would no longer allow that to be the case. They have to participate for the school in whose territory they live. Thank you for that question, and certainly stop me at any time, Emily, if we need to talk through any more. So the next bylaw change is in regards to soccer. A player who is disqualified from a contest for receiving 2 yellow cards in soccer for unsporting acts is now going to receive a 1-game suspension, whereas previously 2 yellow cards in a soccer contest did not result. It resulted in the ejection from the contest, but not a next game disciplinary penalty. So in this particular case now, if those yellow cards are for unsporting acts, which that will fall on the state office to determine exactly what those are. For those of you who have soccer, Mr. Blair, who has already spoken, that will be part of those rules meetings. He will specify, what could constitute a foul in soccer that would result in a yellow card that wouldn't count towards this 1-game suspension. For example, if you got illegal equipment on or something like that. So there'll be more clarity that will come in the soccer rules meetings, but that is a change from previous years. Let me back up. Again, one of those items or areas that the Legislative Council was asked to consider looking at fines, monetary fines for coaches. That previously was $250 for the first event for a coach that was ejected from a contest. That's been that way for nearly 30 years since we've had that bylaw in place. And so now the fine has increased from $500, or excuse me, from $250 to $500 for the first offense. Rarely do we have second offenses. That very rarely happens, but previously that was $500 fine for a second offense. Now that fine is $1,000. We find the school, in many cases, the schools will turn around and find the coach or make the coach pay that. But in essence, we invoice the school. I do see in the chat a question about 2 yellow cards to a coach for soccer, and that does result in actually a 2-game suspension for coaches. And that,
already in place.
yeah, and that was already in place. That's not a change there. The next item, we had a number of changes in the sports calendar over the course of this year. One of the most significant changes there, you see at the top, that top bullet. Now, fall and winter sports will have, and these are team sports. When you think about, we like to use the term team sport and individual sport. Individual sports crown an individual champion. So, golf, bowling, wrestling, track and field, cross country. I may be leaving something out. Tennis. These, they don't have off-season restrictions for practice. So when we're talking about this, we're thinking about team sports, fall and winter, and spring. So now you have 8 days of off-season practice or preseason practice that would be allowed during a 15 consecutive school day period for all sports except football. Football has already these days built in for off-season practice. So does basketball. Basketball has now gone from 5 days of all-season practice to 8 days, like you see right here. This is going to enable a lot of schools to get some early work and to have tryouts during the school year for that upcoming year. A lot of discussion on this, and certainly something that we think will be a positive change. Spring sports, the first official contest date was moved to NFHS Week 36. That actually went into effect this past year. So in essence, what that means is the date of first contest is just moved a week earlier. Did not expand the number of games that could be played in spring sports, but it just spreads out that season a little bit longer. So makes it maybe a little bit easier to get some of these games that are rained out in, spread that out just a little bit. In golf, pretty significant change. The team limit for the number of contests has been removed. So now that it is just each individual golfer may participate in 14 contests per season. So if you have a really large golf team and you're sending competitors to different places on the same day, for example, or maybe even different days, then in essence, the individual golfer is limited to those 14 contests per season, and we've done away with the limitation on the actual dates that the team could participate. Lacrosse, obviously with one of our new sports, is a sports calendar has been added to the bylaws. It is going to mirror what you will find with other team sports. Probably the closest comparison is soccer with regards to number of contests, restrictions, etc. Football, slight change here, not noticeable for many people, but the date of first contest allowed is now the Monday of NFHS Week 7. So what that means is this, in essence, that most folks are going to be playing that first at the high school level football contest on that Thursday or Friday of NFHS Week 7. You could now actually play a game as early as Monday, and what many schools might choose to do, and the reason why this change was proposed was to allow a school to play a junior varsity football game, for example, on that Monday. But you could play that varsity contest as early as Monday of NFHS Week 7. And then in boys and girls basketball, they increased the number of tournaments that are now allowed during the year from 2 to 3. I think I missed one. Let me go back here. No, never mind. I did not. We hit the fee for non-faculty coaches. I apologize. Sorry for the confusion there.
We had a question about the specific dates for off-season practice days, if you want to address that.
All right, let's see. Just want to make sure I'm understanding the question there.
I think they're asking if we've assigned those dates, or if they pick them.
Yeah, so we do not assign those dates for off-season or preseason practice. Off-season has a definition and preseason has a definition. Preseason is going to be during the school year, but prior to that sports season. Off-season is going to be after the conclusion of the season or the sports season until the end of the school year. And depending on which sports you have that off-season or preseason allocation. But you could choose to take those days at any time, 8 days, as long as those 8 days fall within a 15 consecutive school day period. Did have a question yesterday internally that we were discussing. For example, if I wanted to use my all-season days or preseason days and fall break or spring break came in between those days when we started, those don't count as school days. So if you have vacation, like a spring break or fall break, that wouldn't count towards those 15 consecutive school days if you were planning on starting around fall break or spring break. All right, just a few minutes on some hot topics. There are 4 listed here. I'll just kind of go through. First one is the bona fide change of residence form. Okay, and really, bona fide change of residence is what we consider to be a hot topic. I know there's concern that we will hear every year from schools who may not be sure whether or not they believe that a family's actually moved into their zone, or it's another school that's concerned about another school and whether or not someone has actually moved into that territory. We have on that administrative resources page a bona fide change of residence verification worksheet. We're going to be probably discussing this with our board as to the possibility of making this something that is required, not required to be submitted to us, but maybe required to be kept on file in the same way that your physical forms are required. This is used as a tool for the school who is receiving the student as a transfer student who has moved into their territory. It's 3 or 4 pages, and it explains what the criteria for bona fide change of residence actually is. It explains what the definition of a territory, where they have to move, for a public school or independent school, either one. And it also shows what the penalty is if a family were to provide false information, et cetera. So it gives the school a little bit of teeth, particularly if they're concerned that maybe they're not getting the full story from a family that has moved in to their particular territory. So I wanted to call that to your attention. Again, something we're looking at, possibly discussing with our board or council about making this something required. But we wanted to make sure that you're aware of that. Now, I would certainly recommend that if you do have students who are coming that have moved into your territory, I would encourage you to use this form, have their parents fill it out, go over it with them, and certainly if you have any questions about it, feel free to reach out to any of us. We can walk you through it. Amateur rule. Mr. Blair mentioned NIL opportunities. Really what we want to focus on here, we have not had a whole lot of issues with regards to our amateur rule since it was modified to allow students to be compensated for activities that are unrelated to performance, as long as they are not utilizing their school name or logos or anything like that. Then that's been okay. And what this does, this gives kids an opportunity. For example, if they wanted to give, if they're a baseball player and they want to give hitting lessons to middle school kid, they'd be able to do that and get compensated for it, as long as and when they're advertising for that service or whatever, they're not using reference to school logos, et cetera. Or and this is one of those 1 in a millions, but we got a few in Tennessee. If you're that kid who has the opportunity to sign a deal with Spalding and appear in some Instagram ads for Spalding and get paid $10,000 to do it, $100,000 to do it. They can do that as long as there's no reference whatsoever to the school's name or logo or anything like that. They cannot leverage the school. Students own the right to their name, image, and likeness. The Supreme Court has basically ruled on that, but they do not own the rights to your school's logo, to being able to leverage your school to make money. So beware of claims. If there is an app that shows up, we actually have had this in Tennessee. Some of you may very well have heard of it, where there might be an app that surfaces or a platform that claims that it is compliant with TSSAA rules. We've been made aware of some apps who use their platform to encourage folks to donate to groups of students who may be on the same team. You kind of think about that term collective at the college level, where they're leveraging their affiliation with a school team in order to potentially draw from a pool of money in exchange for services or that they are providing through content on social media, et cetera. That's getting really close and could be problematic with regards to how our amateur rule is written. So again, be very wary of claims where an app or platform says that they're compliant with TSSAA rules, because we've seen those claims actually from a particular app, and we're not sure if that is entirely accurate. So there's no telling how many of these might pop up here, there, and everywhere. So we just want you to educate your kids, make sure that they're aware of what the amateur rule allows them to do, and be very careful with regards to an app or platform that is making a claim that it's compliant. We have a link. This is on the administrative resources page that talks about our amateur rule explanation and frequently asked questions with regard to NIL. So don't hesitate to explore that. Transfer rule update, hot topic last year. There was discussion at the state legislature about the possibility of forcing TSSAA to require a one-time transfer. I won't get real deep in the weeds to how all that went down, but in essence, that has not happened. We've had some great conversations with members of the state legislature, and at least at the moment have convinced them to allow our association, our member schools, to govern ourselves the way we've done successfully for the last 100 years. So there are no changes with regards to a transfer rule, one-time transfer. You probably have heard that has happened in some states, but that's not on the table for this year. Now, that may change. If a school were to propose that to our legislative council, they certainly have the opportunity to do that, to be discussed at the regional meeting, as we mentioned before, and certainly that they have the opportunity to do that, and certainly a state legislator may want to introduce legislation at some point, in which case we go to the table to discuss that with them, and again try to convince them to allow us to control our rules. Our rules have evolved quite a bit over the last 30 years. And I'm not saying that they're going to evolve to this one-time transfer. Who knows? There's a lot of pressure that you'll see from the general public when they hear about the transfer portal at the collegiate level. But our membership should be the ones to decide whether or not we modify or move forward with any type of change to the transfer rule. And so far, we've been able to retain control of that. High school classification update and timeline, just real quickly. This fall, we'll be collecting enrollments from the membership. There'll be something that our board of control will be discussing. Typically, they have charged us to collect that first 20-day report from school systems. We actually have an avenue now where we'd be able to extract that data directly from the State Department of Education, from the report that they use in order to fund schools with the new funding formula. So we feel like that process will be a lot more streamlined and cleaner this year, but the board will discuss exactly when to do that at its August meeting, but it would be this fall probably sometime. Then we would set the district and region alignments. TSSLA staff do sometime in October, and then we will post those on the website, and the schools have the opportunity to appeal their placement at the November Board of Control meeting. All that information will be sent to you a little bit later this summer and into the early fall. Just a few statements about catastrophic insurance. As a member of TSSAA or TMSAA, your student athletes are covered with catastrophic insurance. Catastrophic insurance is really a supplemental medical policy. You see our primary point of contact, Greg Jolly, his email address there, loomisandlepan.com. But basically, what this does is this provides a $500,000 medical limit after $25,000 of expenses have been paid by a family, either by their primary care insurance, school insurance, or out of pocket. Once $25,000 of expenses have been paid, then this supplemental policy can kick in up to $500,000. You are covered, or your athletes are covered, as long as they are practicing during the sports season when it's legal to practice, as determined by the sports calendar. They're covered during the summer, except during the dead period, because you're not allowed to practice during the dead period. Preseason scrimmages, etc. Anything that would be happening in your off-season practice that is now permitted, preseason, off-season practice, as long as it's permitted during the sports calendar, then they would be covered. Then obviously your competitions during the sports season. Weightlifting and open facilities are only covered during those times when teams are allowed to practice. So weightlifting, conditioning, open facilities, those activities are happening all year long in a lot of cases, but there's no coverage there unless you were to purchase an additional policy for that, which I'll give you a little bit of information on that. And then travel directly to and from a practice or contest is covered as long as the team is traveling and it's school coach in charge as a team party. But if you're telling everybody to meet you at the baseball field, meet them at such and such field, or arena or whatever, athletes traveling on their own, they're not covered during that time. Optional catastrophic insurance for students who are participating in activities that are not covered, or during the off season. There's a number of schools or school systems that pick this up. It's basically the same policy that those students would have during the regular season, but there's the rates that you see right there. If you're interested in that, again, I gave you that contact. Greg Jolly can help you with that if you're looking for that optional catastrophic insurance for the rest of your population, and then that would cover you all through the year. There's also coverage for coaches and athletic directors. If something were to happen, traveling to or from, or standing on the sidelines and get run over during the game, anything like that. But there's a $5,000 deductible there, $100,000 limit on that policy. Again, there's some contact information. Greg Jolly is the one that we deal with the most. Greg usually comes to our TSSAA administrators meetings and plans to do that this fall to talk, give you a little bit more depth for that. So feel free to reach out to them if you have any questions about catastrophic insurance or additional coverage. All right, next item on the agenda, just a couple of opportunities for you to recognize student athletes. We always want to try to provide these opportunities, and one of our newest opportunities, NFHS Award of Excellence. This is for TSSAA, TMSAA student athletes. It's run through our student services program, and it can be very simple. If you've got a student athlete that has just exhibited great sportsmanship, there's a particular event where there are particular particular act that you saw them, that you want to recognize them for, then you can do that. We have a form on our website that enables you to nominate that individual, and then they will receive a certificate from the TSSAA and the National Federation of State High School Associations. Their name is listed on our website, and then every month we recognize one nominee from the middle school association, high school associations, recognized on our website. But every student that's nominated, you want to recognize them, you will have the opportunity to do that through this NFHS Award of Excellence. We had over 300 students that were submitted by our schools last year. There's an example of an 8th grader from Selmer that was nominated and featured on the website this at the end of the year this last year. And we also have academic awards. So when you think about ways in which you can recognize your students, particularly at awards banquets, etc., at the end of the year, the individual academic achievement certificate, are certificates that you are able to print out yourself. We have a template that you would just simply input their GPA and their name, and then it will produce a certificate for you that you can produce that you can give out at your awards banquets. Just another great way to recognize individuals. And then we have academic awards for teams that can be submitted to us, and then we recognize them on the website. Another way that you can recognize the great efforts of your student athletes. All right, so at this time, it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Colby Coulter. Colby is our Unified Sports Coordinator. We are fortunate to share him with Special Olympics of Tennessee, and he has done some great things to grow our unified sports opportunities. So I'm going to turn it over to Colby.
All righty, thank you. We currently offer 3 unified sports. We just started unified flag football here in the fall. This upcoming year will be our first year. And then our 2 sanctioned sports, unified bowling, which is our winter sport, and then unified track and field, which is in the spring. Unified Champion Schools, or UCS, is the branch of Special Olympics Tennessee that covers all interscholastic programs. Their mission is to create an inclusive environment through unified experience. Unified being students with and without disabilities coming together to compete in their favorite sports. A great example of this can be seen in the picture here on your screen. This is partner Gary Davis and athlete Josh Detroit from Nolensville High School, who competed this year at the TSSAA Track and Field State Championships. Gary and Josh each competed in a heat of the 100-meter dash, where Gary ran a heat against other partners and Josh ran a heat against other athletes. Their times were combined for a final mark that determined where they placed overall and ultimately how many points they scored for their unified track and field team. With this design, you can see that not only are the athletes being included in sport, but they also play a major role in the success for their team. And all of our unified sports follow a similar structure. We currently have roughly 40 schools across the state that compete in at least one or more unified sports, and we want to see those opportunities continue to grow for all of our students. So to help these new programs get started, we have a 3-year support plan that includes funding that covers all of your major expenses for new teams. That includes things like equipment. So for track teams, covering shot puts, covering footballs, flags for the flag football teams, and for our bowling teams, covering things like practice time, different rentals that you may need, new shoes, things like that, any equipment that goes along with those sports. We also cover new uniforms for the teams. A lot of our uniforms like to match as closely as they can to our varsity teams, so we help facilitate and fund that. We also cover travel expenses to and from our different competitions. That includes regular season and postseason travel. And then here recently, we passed substitute coverage as well. So if a teacher or a coach needs to miss class during the school day, their substitute expenses can be covered by those funds as well. Along with that, we are also in the midst of a variety of conversations with many school districts to create a pay band for unified coaches. To support these conversations, we give a $500 head coaching stipend for every sport. that we have sanctioned here. That includes our 2 sanctioned sports and unified flag football. So those are available. We also hear a lot from ADs when we are starting these sports at their schools about practice space and the practice space available for these teams. It should be known that a lot of our teams practice and compete during the school day, so it's rare to see a scheduling issue come up with unified practices, so no worries there. If you have any other questions about unified sports or you want to see them at your school, my contact info is here on the screen. I am turning things over to Matthew Gillespie. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Colby. Good afternoon to everyone. I'm going to go over a little bit of media information with you, specifically information about the NFHS network. We are a member of the NFHS network. The association is. You as a school, many of you are members as well. Certainly not a requirement, but I think after you hear this, if you're not a member, you'll probably see the benefits of doing so. It's certainly your choice. The network does have the exclusive broadcast rights to any postseason event. That's part of our contract and agreement with them. We're one of 46 or 48 states that are now members of the network. What they can provide, in regards to the postseason, if the network's broadcasting, and if you as a member school that's a part of the school broadcast program with the network, you are part of the network. You are the network. You have exclusive broadcast rights to any postseason event. So most of you, if you're a member, you have the Pixelot cameras, which I'll get into details about those. If you're not a member, what that entails on getting those and what they provide to you. But if you have one, you probably have one at your football stadium, one in your basketball gym. If you have those and you're streaming those events, there's no fee to you. And you have the exclusive rights to broadcast that event. So say you got district basketball tournament at your gym, you're streaming that on the network through your Pixelot camera, and the other school wants to come in and do it on YouTube, you're the only one permitted to do that. Also, one of the biggest benefits of being part of the network, I think, if you are streaming postseason events, the fees, which we'll go over here in a little bit for non-network members, you are not party to those fees. So basically that's a big financial benefit of being part of that. If you're not part of the network and you do have a visiting school coming in and broadcasting, and sometimes you see this, most of the time, again, it's going to be schools that have the Pixelot cameras, but sometimes we do have more schools, and we're certainly encouraging this, that do have broadcast programs, broadcast classes, media classes, where they will be able to do it on a manual basis and travel to different schools and do that. Then you have to make every effort to accommodate them. Also, that if they were to do that on the road, but most of the time, like I said, it is going to be a fixed camera. To where you're not going to run into that too much, but they certainly can do that. You can't deny a school broadcast program the right to broadcast if they are coming to you. A lot of times it's both schools that end up being part of the network broadcasting the same event, and that's certainly permitted. Any media entity that's wishing to stream or tape delay broadcast that's not carried by the network must get approval from the host school and also approval from our office. There is a link that we now have. If you go to twswa.org and go to the media tab, there is a link for postseason broadcast request. We put it under that tab because it could be a radio station. Many of those do video streaming now that cover your games. It could be for you as a school, but it asks a lot of questions. It asks you to put in the email addresses of the administrative contacts, coaching contacts of the sport involved. So everybody's included on the communication. It goes to our office every now and then, especially when we get deep into the playoff rounds, more so with football and a little bit of basketball. The network will send their own crews out to some select games, and we become aware of what those games are. So when that request form comes into us, we will know that, hey, someone's requesting to broadcast School A. We know we have a network broadcast crew going to that event, so therefore we would deny it. If it is not denied, if it is permitted, here's a general overlook of the fees for what that entails. Live streaming of a football playoff game, any round, $750. Tape delays 250. Don't see tape delay requests too often, but we get them occasionally. Sectional basketball game 500. Sectional games, tournaments of any other sport 350. Then district or region tournaments for any sports other than football is 250. That's the most common request we get. Those fees, we are looking at making some changes to those, possibly structuring that and having a tiered system based on class. We're looking at doing that and having that in front of the board in August. So whatever changes, if any, do come to that, we will certainly communicate that to you if that does go through with the board. What the network offers with these Pixelot cameras, if you're not familiar with it, it's basically 2 automated cameras. They do stream in HD. They give that to every school for free. It's about a $10,000 equipment value with those cameras. They do have a contract that you would sign in regards to how long you would be committed to having those cameras up and running. There is a no exclusivity requirement that was relaxed, so we're encouraging schools to not be exclusive, to where there's no conflicts if you do have other entities that come in and want to stream the game as well, specifically during the regular season. But again, it is exclusive in the postseason if you have those cameras at your venue. Now, customer support with the network, and again, this network has exploded, especially in the last 2 or 3 years, exploded with the number of schools tremendously, with the number of Pixelot units, with the free offer of Pixelot units. So many schools have taken advantage of that. It grew beyond what they expected, and they were playing catch up with a lot of the customer service aspects. They've expanded their customer service in numerous ways, especially using the console mobile with getting requests through that. So that's what they recommend, what we recommend in getting support. If you do have issues with your camera, they have a way of monitoring your camera now to know that, you know, of course it has to be plugged in, but they can tell that, look, you're not getting a picture. And then sometimes it's something they can fix remotely that they may fix and you may not even be aware of because they get a report of it. But if there's issues that you're aware of, you're getting feedback from your fans and your parents that, hey, we're trying to watch the game. It's black, it's buffering. I can only see half the field. The camera's not moving, stuff like that. That's issues you can report with this console mobile, and the network will certainly get on that, and certainly quicker than what they've been able to in the past. They've certainly increased their response time tremendously. There are advertising opportunities. This is one thing I think schools miss out on the most. A lot of schools take advantage of being part of the network. They get the automated camera, they plug it in, they stream their events, and then they just don't touch it. And that's fine. You certainly can do that, and you'll get the percentage agreed upon with the network of subscriptions, and you get a little check here and there and things like that. This is where you really have an opportunity to make some money. This is where, and I've seen a lot of schools do this. If you start, you can sell these ads because you can go to companies and businesses, tell them how many games you are streaming on this with basketball, football. If you're doing soccer on your football field, those are streamed. If you're doing, I mean, it can be every single JV basketball game, girls, boys, you might have middle school games played in there. You add up the events, it's a lot of eyeballs on those screens that you can sell to companies that, hey, this is where people are going to watch. We all know we've sold the banners on the fences and the signs and things like that. This could be argued, it can be seen by more people than that. So I think there's a lot of opportunities there. It can be watermark logos during your broadcast. Here's some other examples there of basketball. You see the logos there in the top left corner, bottom strip there in the bottom left and right corners as well. So there's a lot of advertising. And schools keep, if you sell those, you keep 100% of it. There's no revenue share with the network, anything like that. That's only involved with subscriptions. You sell any advertising for these events, you keep 100%. And I think that's where schools can take advantage of that opportunity the most. Contact information. This is, take a screenshot of this. Again, I know you'll be able to access this presentation after the fact, but these are the main contacts. If you want to get involved and you're not on the network, contact Matt Abramson. There's his email address, his cell phone number. It's his personal cell phone number. Matt will get you and your school hooked up with the free Pixelot cameras, get the contract to you, go through all that. And if you're not a member of the network, certainly reach out to me. I can answer any questions for you. But I think the biggest thing, talk to a school in your area that's a member of the network. Get feedback from them on how long they've had the cameras, what problems they've had with them, if they've had any at all. Has it been a good experience? I think for the most part, you will find that Most people have a couple issues that had to be dealt with, but again, I think the customer service and the console mobile has helped address those issues. If you're using GoFan or the network already, customer success manager is Abe Williams. That's the main person you want to get in contact with if you are having issues. And a lot of times, especially with football coming up first, when you got football, you're going to have soccer games on your field. Don't wait until Thursday night before your week 1 Friday night game to check and see if the camera's up and working. Get on that a week before, if not earlier. Have it turned on. Check and make sure it's streaming. Check and make sure and so if there does need to be any customer service done with it, somebody sent out possibly, that's worst case scenario. You've got time to deal with that. And so when you get to Friday night or that game 1, whatever night that is, everything's ready to go and you won't have any issues at that point. All right, at this point, I will turn it back over to Mr. Reeves.
Thank you, Matthew. And just one point of clarification there. The free Pixelots, that program's been in place and is available for the high school. For our high schools, it's not in place for our middle schools as of yet. We hope that the NFHS network will expand that opportunity. There's been some discussions for them to do that. But if you're a middle school administrator on there, those Pixelot camlers are available for purchase, but just hold tight because we hope that we might be able to extend that, not us, but they might extend that opportunity to you all as well. Certainly, and again, if you have any questions about any of this, Matthew's a great resource for you. And Matt Abramson, I think he gave you his contact information to reach out to Matt. Just a few more things, this won't take long on the agenda. Arbiter Game, I just wanted to put that name in your mind because you will be seeing some more information coming from our office. It's an extension of Arbiter Sports, the officiating assignment platform and officials pay platform that many of you may already be familiar with. But Arbiter Game is going to be a feature that you're going to be able to receive middle school and high school for free that will enable the schedule that you put in on Arbiter for your home football games to also populate the TSSAA website where you put in your schedule for us. So there's more information to come that hasn't been finalized just yet, or in terms of the instructions that you will need to receive. But just wanted to put that on your radar when you see that information come to you. Hopefully streamline some of that process for you just a little bit. The next item is with regards to RefReps. RefReps is a company. It's an officials education system. It's an online platform that we started working with last year. I do want to call your attention to this slide. It is a platform that offers a Department of Education course. So there's actually elective credit for students who may wish to take one of these online officiating courses. So it's got a course number, et cetera. So if you're looking for more credits for your students. I was once the assistant principal that had to make the master schedule and looking for courses for students to take, particularly at the end of their high school careers. This may be a great option for you. So I believe it's about $40 per subscription, but we also have an opportunity, and we'll have that this year, for us to receive 100 free subscriptions, 100 free courses to distribute to our member schools. And we kind of did it on a first come, first serve basis last year, an all call out to our membership. And so we'll be doing that again. But certainly I would encourage you to just check out their website, RefReps and refreps.com. If there's interest at all, you think in offering this to your students, either as an elective or just maybe for those students who might want to explore officiating as a way to make some extra income as they finish school. It's a great way to make some part-time income, particularly for those kids who are a little bit older. And so it's just welcome you to check that out and pass that information along. Who to contact? I'm not going to go through this verbatim, but you kind of see an alphabetized list of topics that we get questions on from time to time. So if you're looking for persons to contact for your particular sport or particular area, whether it's ejections, eligibility, academic achievement, anything like that. You'll see staff members that are that help oversee and responsible for information on these particular topics. There's 3 slides here that you could take a look at, and again, this video this will be available for you to take a look at. And then we also have this staff directory on our website. It's not listed in the same way by alphabetized by topic, but we're working on a way that we might be able to make that look a little bit better and a little bit more user friendly for you to find the answer or the point of contact for the questions that you might have. A couple other items, hardship application process, middle school or high school, just something to think about. Any student who does not meet an eligibility rule, the school has the opportunity to request for an exception to that through the hardship application process. The 2 circumstances where you're not able to do that is for the semester rules and the age rule. In other words, you got a certain number of semesters that you're going to be in school that you have the opportunity to compete. And then you've got your age rule, which if you are more than a certain age, there's no application process for that middle school or high school level. But in essence, we have a hardship application form, excuse me, that's submitted to our office, and the circumstances that have led to that student not meeting the eligibility rules have to be considered unforeseen, unavoidable, unrelated to athletics. Probably the most common hardship that we get nowadays is for students who are seeking what they feel like would be a better environment, either academically or socially or whatever the case may be. Maybe another school that's offering a program that their school doesn't offer. That doesn't meet the criteria for unforeseen, unavoidable. It may very well not be related to athletics, but those are personal decisions that we would certainly respect a family to make to seek that environment that's better for their student, but it doesn't carry with it the right to varsity eligibility. So keep that in mind when thinking about applying for hardship. We should also have, as a part of that information that's submitted to us, a letter and email from the previous school that should state what their knowledge of the transfer was, circumstances of the transfer. Specifically, that's not for athletic or disciplinary reasons. From time to time, we'll get those letters, and it may just be a student's last day of participation and they left in good standing. That's fine, and you may not be able to get a letter from the particular school, and there's a box to check if that's the case, in which we'll follow up with the school themselves to find out maybe what their opinion is or what's going on. Contrary to popular belief, there are no releases. In other words, if a school or administration puts their blessing on the student and says, "Hey, I really want Mark Reese to be eligible at the new school. Have no issue with him being eligible, even though we know that he left for academic reasons or whatever." That still doesn't bring with it eligibility. It has to meet these criteria: unforeseen, unavoidable, unrelated to athletics. To finish this up, just a few slides that are specific to the Middle School Association, and then we'll hang on here and take any questions that you may have we haven't answered in the chat already. We mentioned governance of the TSSAA with a Board of Control and Legislative Council. The Middle School Association has a Middle School Advisory Committee that doesn't have a vote per se for policy on the Board of Control or Legislative Council. But this group that you'll see the names represented here are those individuals that come together at least twice a year that discuss all things that are specific to the Middle School Association, whether it's their recommendations for classification, recommendations for eligibility or bylaw changes. And this committee makes recommendations to the state office staff, which then they present to the Board of Control or Legislative Council, whichever one is appropriate, depending on the circumstance. And generally, the Board of Control Legislative Council are going to approve those requests. So it is the voice for the middle school member schools, and it's a very effective process. These individuals do a great job in representing you and our middle schools with issues that are specific at the middle school side. Also, Emily Crowell has developed a resource for you where you can get answers to a lot of frequently asked questions that you'll find through the middle school association, particularly when you're submitting eligibility, logging in, adding schedules, all the administrative things that you have to do. There is an opportunity for you to get a quick link tutorial on a lot of these information that you'll need to be able to complete some of these tasks at hand. Also, state championships. I will say this for our middle schools. We have actually more member middle schools than we do high schools now. Over 550 member middle schools, if I'm not mistaken, at last count. In Tennessee, we are doing something that you're not going to find in other state associations. And I mentioned Emily and Emily Crowell and Richard McWhorter have really led the charge to grow the platform and the opportunities across the state for middle school athletics. You're not going to see member middle schools in these championships offered in other state associations. The only comparable that we know of is Illinois, that has a separate middle school association. So it's incredible the work that these individuals are doing, and the championships that we're offering these opportunities. This year, what's new, we've got wrestling championship, a team championship from the boys side, and then an individual championship on the girls side is our newest addition. Volleyball was last year, first year that we had a middle school volleyball championship, and soccer's coming quickly. We'll be coming down the road. We'll be talking about that next year. So it's amazing some of these opportunities that are had for our middle school association, and kudos to Emily and Richard for really growing that platform. All right. I know we've kept you here for quite some time. Again, this video will be provided for you at the conclusion of this presentation. Actually, it probably will not be. We'll have to get that posted on our website. It may take a little bit, maybe as early as maybe next week, maybe early part of next week before we get that done. But we'll make sure that you have access to all of this. I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for all of the questions that have been submitted, but I'll kind of leave the floor open if anybody has a specific question. If you wanted to unmute and ask it directly, or we'll stay on here for a minute if you have questions through the chat. Think we're good?
Yeah, Jeffrey just asked about if they could use the slides in their own presentations. I think we have a way we can share that.
Absolutely. I do believe we can do that. It may have to come as a Google link to you. The file will be too big to send via email, but or excuse me, in a regular attachment, but should be able to do that, and that's something we can do. We can push that out really to everybody. So yeah, that's a great suggestion. You're more than welcome to use this information.
Yes, I have a question. Do you know what?
Building update. I'll give you the quick version, short version. Board of Control recently approved funding to pay for the design services. That's architect fees, which we have hired. We have hired an owner's representative that would be an independent third party that would help us in the selection of a contractor and work with our architects and be able to speak that construction language that maybe we're not experts on. So we've done that. That company, that's Hewlett Spencer, They've built a lot of school buildings in the Middle Tennessee area and some in East Tennessee, actually. And so it is our hope that those design services could be completed within the next 6 to 9 months. And in that process, we will find out exactly what that building would cost, guaranteed maximum price. If it is, we anticipate that figure is probably going to be on the low end, 7 to 8 million. If it's much more than that, then we'll have to figure out what to do next. We're not really sure. We believe we've had a couple of contractors that have given us some very general price that this structure should probably be in the neighborhood of $6.5 to $7 million, but that's before you do furniture and move utilities or anything like technology, that kind of thing. So it's our hope that we'd be able to do that. That's something the association could afford. We'll talk more in depth about that, what the money looks like at our administrators meetings this fall. But certainly call me and we can talk about that anytime. But yeah, thanks for asking. All right, looks like we've got everybody. We will we'll shut this down. And once again, thanks for everybody for taking some time to be with us today, and hope to see you soon.